Welcome to the podcast. Don't Be Ridiculous, episode number 56. Jeremy Palmer, Clark Palmer here with you to go over all your sports, our favorite sports stuff, and some nonsense here and there.
Yep.
You know, it's about 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday night. So we're going to go over a full weekend of NFL, college. You know, we're going to complain about the Dolphins like we always do. But I had a gripe earlier that I was thinking about. So one of my favorite fellow podcasters, Bill Simmons, the great, wonderful Bill Simmons. He, every Monday they do a review of the NFL games and then they guess the lines for the next week. And at one point they were talking about baseball and, anyone who's not paying attention to baseball. So the Astros swept the Yankees last night and they're in the World Series against the Philadelphia Phillies. And, basically they were debating, well, who do I root for? And so he has cousin Sal on the podcast, and he, of course, is a Mets fan, so he can't root. He's rooting for the Astros because there's no way he can root for the Phillies because, being a Mets fan, he certainly wasn't going to root for the Yankees. And Bill Simmons, as we all know, is a fellow Red Sox fan. Nothing wrong with that. And he's complaining about, this series, I can't root for either one of these teams. Like, nobody wants the Astros to win, and I can't root for the Phillies, and, because the Astros are a bunch of cheaters and, whatever. And it's like you want to talk about pot calling the kettle black. A Red Sox fan who, when after Houston was confirmed that they were cheating, their coach, Alex Cora, went to the Red Sox to become their manager, and then the Red Sox won the World Series in 2018. So this is a guy complaining, oh my God, I can't believe that, the Astros are a bunch of cheaters. Nobody wants to root for them. And listen, I get the hate for the Astros. Like, I understand. They cheated. I get it. Like,
it was a pretty elaborate cheating system. I mean, it was pretty crazy. Yeah.
I'm over it, but I don't care who wins. Like, I follow baseball a little bit, but I don't care who wins. And so, but for a Red Sox fan and a Patriots fan to be complaining about cheating is just beyond laughable. Like, you want to talk about one area of the country that's been known for cheating in sports. I mean, I can't go much farther than Boston. Like, listen, the baseball team cheats. The football team's been cheating forever. The basketball teams, the Celtics coaches cheat on their wives. So there's just all kinds of cheating going on. So that's my gripe for today. Like, I don't want to hear, like, honestly, and baseball players, honestly, baseball's the biggest sport where they cheat the most. Like, honestly, they're known for cheating. So I really don't want to hear.
Well, they've got so much more experience with it. I mean, it's just, baseball's been around longer. I mean, they're just, I mean, no other sport has, I mean, the Black Sox scandal, no other sport has that, where there's just this, like, huge thing where it's like, oh my God, this team totally threw this game. Like, that. Nobody else really has something that huge. But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, so that I just thought I thought that was pretty entertaining, talking about, we can't root for that. And listen, the Phillies are going to have a bunch of new fans for this series because people don't want to root for the Astros. But honestly, it shows the Astros are just really good. Like, anyway.
Yeah.
So didn't mean to open up our podcast with baseball. We don't neither one of us follow it enough to actually talk about it. I do like watching the Yankees lose, though. That's always fun.
Yeah. That's always, yeah.
All right, so let's get to our main topic. You could call this another one of our gripes. The Dolphins managed to win against the Steelers on Sunday night, 16-10. Dolphins came up with 13 points in the first quarter. They came out guns blazing. Looked like, first three drives, they come up with points on each one of them. Looked like, they were going to roll over this team, and they had to hang on. They only scored 3 points in the second half, and they had to hang on to win. And honestly, if the Steelers could catch all the interceptions that Tua threw them, we might be having a different discussion today.
Well, I mean, look. Here's how you could look at it. The Dolphins won the game, but not for lack of trying. Not for lack of trying to lose. I mean, good God. It's like, come on, we're trying to let you win. Why can't you win? You know.
Yeah, they tried to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yes, exactly. It was very Detroit Lions, Cleveland Browns, type of thing. It just didn't, Pittsburgh couldn't catch the damn interceptions. Which, by the way, let me point out. So Tua on the year has 10 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He should probably have like 8 interceptions. I mean, just in that game alone, they probably should have caught 1 or 2 of those. And then in the Patriots game, he threw a couple that they didn't catch. So, I mean, it's...
Yeah, he had at least 4 passes that hit Steelers' hands directly.
Yeah. So, and he had some other ones where I was like, are you sure you should be throwing the ball there? But, it's one of those... I mean, there's so many different things to get to with this.
So what's your take on the game first? Just the game itself.
The game. Okay, the game. So I guess one of my main gripes about the game, just in terms of the Dolphins trying to win the game, they're up 16-10, right? Yeah, they were up 16-10, and they were driving. They had the ball deep in Pittsburgh territory, like inside the 20. They get a 4th and 3. They don't kick the field goal. Now, we've been harping on this for, like 2 years now. But in that situation, you're up 16-10. Your offense has not been doing very much they didn't do anything in the third quarter, really. Your offense really hasn't been doing much. You're ahead by 1 score. A field goal makes it 2 scores. Pittsburgh's offense, they got a rookie quarterback. They're not looking that good. Your defense is playing pretty well. Just kick the damn field. What are you doing? Just kick the field goal. And instead, because you didn't kick the field goal that last drive where Pittsburgh had the ball, you're sweating because they could win the game. So that, in terms of anything else from the game, I mean, it just seems to be the Dolphins have gotten into this pattern where I can kind of tell early in the game if it's going to be a game where the Dolphins have a chance to win. The Dolphins get out to a lead, the defense plays well, Tua has a few drives, mostly their field goals, and then they just hang on at the end. And they're playing a bad team with a bad quarterback, and that's basically most of you look at the last 3 years, usually that's when Tua's been playing the last, the last 3 years when Tua's been playing, that's how they win games for the most part.
Right.
The Ravens game earlier this year, that's the outlier. That doesn't happen. That may never happen again. Okay? So, yeah, this is kind of how they win, and just as a fan of the team, this is not encouraging. Okay? This is not, I'm hearing Colin Cowherd being bullish on the Dolphins, and I'm like, why? You could be bullish on the Jets. The Jets have talent on their roster on both sides of the ball, and they just beat the Dolphins. Hell, the Patriots, I still have questions about their offense, but their defense is obviously well coached because Belichick's a really good coach, and maybe they're just kind of figuring stuff out and they're managing things the right way to win games. So, but none of those teams I'm like, oh, they could win the Super Bowl or they could win multiple playoff games. No, not at all. Not there's no way in hell you're going to win in the playoffs like that.
Yeah. I think it concerns me that the offense seems to be able to do a couple of things. They basically like Colin Cowherd was saying, they come out with the scripted plays, right, and they look really good. And he's completing all these short passes in the middle of the field. They ran the ball, and they run the ball pretty well. They're running the ball about it's over 4 yards a carry, but in order to sustain offense when they go through those tough times where they're having trouble completing passes, they got to get that running up to about 4.8 to 5 yards a carry. Because if they can do that, then they can sustain these drives, because these drives sputter out because they throw he throws a 4-yard pass to the running back drops it. Now you're behind the down again. And they can't catch up to it, and it's really hard. I just think my overall take is it's really hard to consistently drive the ball down the field like that with 9, 10, 12 play drives where you're just continuing to complete these passes And this is my main criticism of, and I'm done criticizing Tua. Like at this point, I think we see what he is. So I'm not gonna bother criticizing the quarterback. I think we've got to figure out some way, because in the second half, the Steelers basically took away the middle of the field. Once they kind of did that, there was no adjustment to that. Like, you've got to be able to throw the ball outside the numbers to a certain extent. You don't have to be great at it, but you've got to be able to throw the ball to the sidelines, to be able to, make the Steelers defend the whole field.
Or you've got to have something like, for instance, Baltimore, their offense hasn't necessarily looked great in some of their games this year, but you can run the ball, and then you've got Lamar Jackson can run it. And, he throws a lot of stuff over the middle of the field, and he's not necessarily the best outside the numbers. He's, I guess, gotten better, but you've got enough where you can kind of make up for it. The Dolphins just, you can't be scoring 16 points a game and expect to win a lot of games,
Right.
And also, look, McDaniel's a younger coach, and these younger coaches they don't seem to like to kick field goals, and you're putting your team in a bad spot. Like, you need as many points as you can get, because they're not very easy to come by. So no, you can't, here's the other thing that I was thinking about this today. Like, okay, that 4th and 3, if you convert that, you didn't get a touchdown. Okay? If it's 4th and goal from the 2, I'm almost a little more understanding of going for it, because if you get it, you can score a touchdown probably. Or, it's 4th and goal from the 2. But yeah, if you get that, you're going to score a touchdown. That's points. Okay? I'm less understanding about it, especially when a field goal puts you up 2 scores, and it's converting that 4th down is not going to get you anything.
Yeah, and what really makes no sense is, so it's like 3rd and 3 or whatever, right? They run the ball, quick run to the right side, and then they hurry up to the line to run basically the same running play to the left side, and they both get stopped. My criticism of it is, first of all, on 3rd down, throw the ball to try to get the first down. Like, number one, do whatever you have to do to get the first down. If you don't get it, and then you think about going, and if you're really going to go for it there, then be aggressive. Don't just run a play into the line. Like, try to score a touchdown then, if that's what you're going to do. Like, right. I don't like, it's like shit or get off the pot, Either kick the field goal or try really hard to get the first down, or be aggressive and try to throw the ball. Like, so that's my criticism. If you're going to do that, then have a better play ready to go before you do that. And so this is my getting, they won the game. So listen, all right, we can only complain so much, but this is what concerns me about McDaniel is this guy just a really good coordinator and doesn't know how to manage games correctly? Because the last 2 weeks, the games have not been managed well.
Yeah.
And this is what worries me. Not kicking field goals, not being smart with possession and time, and, punting when it's appropriate. And, you're asking for trouble. You're asking to lose games when you manage things this way. And you can see it's not, the funny part is, like, is anyone watching the tape of other teams? Because it's not working. It's not working for Doug Peterson in Jacksonville. It's not working for Brandon Staley with the Los Angeles Chargers. It's not working for anyone. The guys who are winning are Belichick, who kicks field goals, right? Andy Reid, who kicks field goals. Like, the guys who are...
Shanahan kicks field goals.
Kyle Shanahan kicks field goals. Like, the guys that are winning, that's what they're doing. So it blows me away that we're able to get away with this. And I swear to God, this is one of the main problems with the Dolphins is our owner's out to lunch, so no one's calling McDaniel on this stuff. Like, I was listening to Mike Lombardi, and he just, by the way, Mike Lombardi opened his podcast with ripping Mike McDaniel for that not kicking the field goal.
Okay.
He absolutely went off on him. He was like, you think if Al Davis owned the Dolphins, he would ever let the coach get away with that?
Yeah.
And he's right. Like, you got to.
That almost cost them the game. And that's the other thing. When people, and we were talking about this in the last podcast or the one before that, someone on the Ringer, Ben Zolak or something, was talking about this. And it's like, the reason that we're harping on this is because these decisions can cause you to lose games. Now, you escaped this one, but I mean, dude, you could have very easily lost the game simply because you didn't just kick the damn field goal.
Right, just like the Chargers against the Browns last week or 2 weeks ago. Like, and
Yeah.
by the way, you lose these games, you don't make the playoffs, people get fired. This
Yes.
isn't like we're not just these aren't not well, it's not that big a deal. No, it's a gigantic deal. And they even said on the broadcast, Collinsworth said it's 51%. You're better. You'll win. You have a better chance to win if you kick the field goal than not. And it was by 2%. And he made a good point. All of these analytical decisions, they're a coin flip. Like, so why don't you just take the higher percentage play then? Why don't you just take the field goal and see what happens? You're up 9 in the fourth quarter. You win the game like 80 or 90% of the time when you have a lead, like a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
So,
I just find it hilarious that it's almost like, okay, when we would play like Madden or these other, or Tecmo Super Bowl or something, we would constantly go for it on fourth down. But who cares? It's a fucking video game. Okay. When did that sort of logic sort of overtake the NFL? And now people are like, oh, we should go for it. It's just like, well, no, sometimes you should just kick the damn field goal.
yeah, we'll talk about this more with the other NFL games because coaches made tremendous blunders with all that shit yesterday.
The other thing I wanted to point out about the Dolphins was, Colin Cowherd seems to be bullish on the Dolphins, which, fine, I guess you got to pick some teams that you think are
Well,
going
he thinks they're going to make the playoffs. Like, I understand that.
Fine. But, he's talking about, well, they have Xavier Howard's a really good cornerback, right? Their defense seems to be playing pretty well. They've got a bunch of weapons on offense, running backs, receivers, right? And with all of that, and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are racking up yards, it's like, okay, fine. You're doing all that, and you're scoring basically 16 points a game.
Right.
Like, this is what you're playing a rookie quarterback at home, and you score 16 points. I mean, 1 touchdown. I mean, like, so it's like, oh, well, they've done all these things right. It doesn't fucking matter if you don't have an elite quarter, because an elite quarterback with this roster, they'd be scoring 30 points a game. Okay, I'm sorry, they would be scoring 30 points a game. So it's just like, look, you can say the Dolphins are going to make the playoffs. They play the Lions next. That's a winnable game. They have some other winnable games on the schedule. They could still potentially get to 10 wins. But, do I see a next level for this team? No. There's a clear ceiling, and that's it. I don't see anything above that. So.
Yeah, I mean it's a problem, and they're playing they're playing at the Detroit Lions next week. The Detroit Lions have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. If they can't get 28 points next week, then I don't even know where we go from here.
And not to harp on Tua, but yeah, you've made the point that's perfect. I mean, basically we've talked about Tua plenty. We know what he is now. I was out on Tua at the end of last year, and look, I praised him after the Ravens game because I thought he made some good throws, he made some plays, but basically this is kind of what he is, guys. And some of it I think is because he's not that tall, so he can't see over the line sometimes, so he has to kind of go with his pre-snap stuff, and also his arm's not that strong. I mean, he threw it. Like, there was a pass he threw to Tyreek Hill last night, and I'm like, if he has a stronger arm, the ball's thrown into the end zone, and that's a touchdown. But because he can't throw it that far, the ball just dies on him. So it's like, there's just some things that he can't overcome.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that. I think he's got to change his trajectory on his deep ball. I think he's throwing it too flat. He's got to get more air under it, kind of like Russell Wilson does, where he can drop it in there. He's got to throw it higher with more air under it. He's trying to throw it flat, kind of like Joe Burrow does, right? Where it's and he's not really designed to do that. But he can still make these throws though because he anticipates it well enough. He can still do it. He's got to adapt to make it work for him. But regardless, that's a whole other thing. But I was watching something. I was watching YouTube. They were doing a breakdown of Jimmy Garoppolo, and they're showing San Francisco's offense, and they're showing how every throw from Jimmy Garoppolo is in the middle of the field. It's in between the numbers. It's all and anytime a defense basically tries to take that away, he struggles. That's where you see these throws where there's a defender right on the guy and he can't get it to him. So they try to adjust and get him to throw, outside the numbers a little bit, but he's still he's still not good at it. So Shanahan has basically set up the entire offense so that Garoppolo can make all those throws that he's pretty good at. And so I saw that, and then I'm watching the game last night, right? So you look at it, right? San Francisco has Trent Williams as their left tackle. The Dolphins have Teron Armstead, right? The Dolphins have one of the running backs that San Francisco used to have, right? They have Mostert, who used to play for them, right? All the runs are outside zone. They're between the tackle and the guard on either side. That's basically what they do over and over and over again, right? He's got now the playmakers are right. They have Deebo Samuel in San Francisco. We have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and they're basically catching these in routes where they're catching the ball and then trying to run after it, right? So it's the same offense, right? So Tua basically has the same, like he's Jimmy Garoppolo. He has the same limitations. I don't know why I didn't make this connection before. We were always like, well, can he just be Jimmy Garoppolo? No, he is. All the throws are in the middle of the field. He's throwing the same routes that Jimmy Garoppolo throws. It's the same thing. The only problem is Tua is a little bit shorter, so some of them are a little more difficult. But it's the same type of stuff, and then teams start to clamp down and take it away, and then he struggles. So, I don't know what I'm watching it going, they've got to, and the problem is I've been complaining about this for like 2 years now. If you don't threaten the defense in all the areas of the field, not just throwing the ball deep, but if you don't threaten them in all the areas of the field, then they're just going to focus on the one area, and teams are going to start taking this away. It's working now in the first quarter on the first drive. I don't think that's going to continue. One of these teams that's smart, has a smart coach that knows what they're doing, is going to start clamping down on this, and what are we going to do then? So that's why I'm really big on they've got to run the ball better, because that's the difference. That's the difference between San Francisco and Miami, number one. They run the ball better, number one. Number two, San Francisco's defense, when everybody's healthy, and everybody's banged up right now, but when they're healthy, they can be dominant. The Dolphins' defense is good, but it's not.
They're not like dominant like
it's
that.
It's not dominant. The only guy who's
an elite pass rusher, or something like that can really disrupt the other team's offense. Right.
The only guy that's elite is Xavier Howard. Yeah. He's great, and the problem with him is they just stop throwing the ball to whoever he's covering. So, he's great, but the problem is there's only so much he can do. And I was reading some statistics like without blitzing, they're not very good at getting pressure on the quarterback. And even when they blitz, they don't get as many sacks as they should. Like they're 10th in the NFL in blitzing, they're only 24th in sacks. So even when they, and last night they really couldn't blitz as much because they didn't have their secondaries all banged up. They only had like Xavier Howard, and it was a bunch of third, fourth string guys out there. So I think it's tough. It's tough because I do feel like there are places that this can go, but now it's on the coach. Like this is not on. I don't think it's on the quarterback anymore. I think this is on McDaniel. Like you got to manage the team better, number one, and you've got to start. I don't want to say get out there and throw the ball deep, but you got to be able to throw it to this. You got to throw sideline routes. You got to make defenses, change what they do. If you're just going to allow them to do this, we're going to be in trouble.
Well, I was thinking about this just in terms of the rest of the NFL, like especially the NFC. Because the AFC, you got the Bills and the Chiefs, and then I think you can maybe throw the Bengals in there, and then I don't know. After that, it's kind of murky. Like you have the Ravens, but I'm not sure how much I buy them because they're kind of struggling, and then there's some other teams that are they're decent, but they're not like great. But in the NFC, to me, whoever makes the Super Bowl, it's going to come down to which team can play the way that it wants to in those 2 or 3 playoff games. Okay, because look at all the teams in the NFC, right? You got the Eagles. They basically play a certain way, right? They're going to run the ball a lot, with both with their running backs and with Jalen Hurts. They've got some playmakers, in terms of receivers. He's going to try to make some plays with his legs and also with his arm, But they want to try to get ahead of you and then just sort of dictate the pace of the game. They can get behind a little bit and maybe come back, but they can't get too far behind, I don't think. San Francisco. You saw them yesterday. They scored 23 points in the game. At one point, the game was 28-23. But that's kind of tough for them to keep scoring like that. They can't keep up with Kansas City because Kansas City, their offense is so good, they can just dictate terms to you. And if you can't keep up with them, you're done. So and then who else in the NFC? I mean, like the 49ers, so they need to get healthier and they need to be able to play defense well. They need to be able to run the ball so Jimmy Garoppolo can just make some play action throws and also the stuff over the middle, and they can play the way that they want to. If they can play the way they want to, they can probably beat anybody in the NFC, but can they? Are they going to be healthy enough? And then you just have a bunch of other teams where it's like the Cowboys, their defense is legit, and they need, if they can run the ball and their defense plays like that, maybe they have a shot in the playoffs. But Dak Prescott, how much are you really getting? The Giants have basically won a bunch of one-score games. They're just another classic example of a team that comes into a year and they have a really good section of the year where they just win a bunch of close games, where it could kind of go either way. I'm not really buying into them, and then you got like the Bucks, they're struggling. You've got the Packers, who are obviously, they really miss Devontae Adams. They can't seem to get it together on offense. You got the Vikings. You don't really trust Kirk Cousins in prime time. But if the Vikings get on top of you and their defense is playing well and Dalvin Cook's running the ball and they can dictate things like that, then yeah, maybe they can win some games in the playoffs. So that's all that it's going to come down to. All this window dressing stuff in the regular season, it's basically like just get in. And then if you can play the way that you are able to play at your best, you might be able to get through the NFC. So that was kind of something I was thinking about today.
Yeah, the season's so long now that it basically comes down to who gets healthy and who gets hot at the end of the season.
Right.
And so, that's why I wouldn't count. It's very hard to count anybody out at this point because, as you said, most of the league is right around 500. They're one game above at 500 or one game below. So they all have a shot.
Seattle's scoring points. Like Seattle, I'm totally shocked by that. Could the Rams turn things around a little bit? Maybe. I don't know. Could the Bucks figure some stuff out? I don't know. But if they do, possibly.
Yeah, so those are some teams I want to talk about. So, okay, do Green Bay or Tampa Bay? Does one of them make the playoffs? None of them? What do you think at this point?
Oh, man.
Because I think Green Bay's done.
I mean, you could argue they're both done. I mean, I just don't I would say probably both. But can I just, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but can I just say this? Because I texted this yesterday. So Tom Brady blew up his marriage to lose to the Carolina Panthers 21-3. Look, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but let me just say this about Brady. Look, he's going to do what he's going to do. He can keep playing if he wants to, fine. And I mean, he can still throw the ball really well. But and we've talked about this before. Dude, if you win another Super Bowl, what does that do?
Right.
All right, you've set all the records. Like, what, you're going to play another year after this? You're going to put yourself further in front of everybody so no one can ever catch you? I mean, I would be a little bit surprised if people caught him now. I mean, he's so far ahead on all these records. So it's like, dude, I get it. But at the same time, it's like, I just, again, I don't know what all's going on here, but it's just like, dude, you've done enough. Why don't you just, your family just wants to spend more, again, your family just seems to want to spend more time with you and you don't want to retire. It's like, okay, whatever. But it just, to me, it seems like, look, most people regard you as the greatest quarterback of all time. The people who don't, they're not going to change their opinion, ever. Okay? Most people consider him the GOAT. Okay? And nothing he does is going to change anything. If people are upset about the Deflategate thing, they're going to continue to be upset about it. Nothing he does by continuing to play is going to change any of that. So it just kind of seems like, he's one of those guys that just can't let it go. Again, I don't really know, but anyway, that's besides the point. I mean, they scored 3 points against Carolina, who Carolina, we thought they were basically just giving up their season. They traded 2 players. It's like, they're done. They fired their coach, and you lose to them. So I guess I would say both, but it's hard for me to say both because the NFC is it's a clusterfuck. There's just so many teams that I'm just like, whoever's playing well enough at the end of the year and can get to 9 or 10 wins, they could make the playoffs. And then it comes down to tiebreakers and, whatever else.
I just don't think Green Bay is going to be able to. I don't think Green Bay's fortunes are going to change because it's not like, oh, we have a bunch of guys injured. Like, they are what they are. Like, and people are talking about, well, they should get Odell Beckham. You can trade for a receiver if you want. That's not going to dramatically change who you are. Like, and I do think the young guys will get better, but they can't beat Washington. They can't beat the Jets. They can't, they're getting beat by teams that, that they shouldn't be getting beat by. I just think that it's finished. I just don't see it getting better. Brady, the issue with Tampa is like Brady can't do what all these, he doesn't have the extra gear that these other quarterbacks do. He's got to have the right situation. They have to have a good offensive line in front of them. They have to do all of these other things because he can't, he's, I don't want to say he's limited, but he is. He's limited. He can't move. He doesn't have the same, it's not the same as it used to be with him. The offense is not on the same level. He looks like the last year in New England. That's what he looks like to me. When it's like, oh geez, so I think if they can't get the offensive line issues figured out, and plus, even when, from what I saw from the game, even when they block well, he's missing throws that he shouldn't be missing. He's throwing the ball into the ground. Now receivers are dropping balls too, but yeah, I think they still have a shot because Tampa's division's terrible.
Yeah.
And same with the Rams. Like, the Rams still have a shot because their division's bad.
It's
Green Bay, I think
they're all right around the same thing. So it's like literally it's going to come down to, a couple of games late in the season.
So, but Green Bay, they're not going to win the division. And so they're going to be in this cluster with all these teams. I don't know that Green Bay is going to be over 500.
Yeah.
Like, Tampa, I still feel like they could. But, I'm out on Green Bay. I think it's done. I think it's over with. And I was listening to Ryan Russillo earlier today, and he's like, yeah, it's hard to feel bad for Rodgers, and I get that. Like, Rodgers is kind of a dick. Like, I get it. It's hard to feel bad for him. At the same time, this is, like, the team, like, you have Aaron Rodgers, and this is what you stuck him with? Like, this was your plan going into the season, and we're going to have 2 rookie receivers and Sammy Watkins, and then our defense will be really good, and the defense hasn't been good. So, It's just, I think they're both. It's both of their faults. It's the Green Bay organization has completely mismanaged their team. I think their coach is kind of a fraud. Like, I don't think LaFleur's really good, and so he can't overcome this. But anyway, we could talk about Green Bay all day. But yeah, Green Bay, I think it's done. And Brady, like, if this thing falls apart for Tampa, I don't see any way. Like, it's just gonna be really ridiculous if Tampa goes 7-10 in Brady's last year, and it's just kind of like, nobody's gonna care. Nobody's gonna remember what his last year was. Nobody remembers the last year of Jordan in Washington, so no one's gonna remember it. But I just kind of find that interesting. Yeah, as you said, the league is completely upside down. The Jets and the Giants continue to be good. Meanwhile, the Chargers and the Broncos and the Jaguars continue to disappoint us.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised by the Chargers because they've been disappointing people for 20 years now. So,
Well, speaking of head coaches that are frauds, I think Brandon Staley's just, oh my God, this guy's retarded. First of all, his defense is bad. The guy's a defensive coach. The defense is bad. Like, the offense is dink and dunk. Like, they can't, they've got maybe one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. They can't figure it out. It's incredibly disturbing. How do you score 19 points against Denver? Like, all Denver does is punt the ball back to you. Like, how do you not? It's amazing.
Yeah. Denver's the whole thing. That I don't think they're going to get that stuff figured out. I think Nathaniel Hackett's going to get fired at the end of the year. Because I just don't like that. And that whole thing just, I don't. Like, is Russell Wilson just bad now? And if he's bad, they're stuck with him. He signed that huge.
It's not good. Teams, from what I was reading, teams have been calling them to try to trade for their receivers. Like literally, like, Broncos may be in sell mode real quick. If Russell Wilson misses another week, like, they're 2-5. It's basically over. So Denver's just a whole thing. We don't even have enough time to go into it. I don't know what I mean, Russell's just playing. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. I don't know what the reason is,
bad.
but Russell's playing bad. He's playing like shit.
Bad.
If Tua was playing this way, we'd be screaming on this podcast.
Oh, yeah. Tua's at least playing better than that. I mean, shit.
Absolutely. Tua's hitting guys when they're open. Like, it's just, I don't know what the deal is. I wanted to talk about the Jaguars because they completely fucked this game up. So Jaguars are up 17-13. There's 11 minutes to go. Okay. They're at somewhere like the 20, like the Giants 20-yard line. Right. And again, they don't kick the field goal. They go for it on fourth down. They get stuffed by the Giants. The Giants go down. They score a touchdown. So now they have the lead. And at the end of the game, Jacksonville is they have to score a touchdown at the end to try to win. So they have to keep throwing the ball into the end zone and eventually the guy caught it at the 1.
He caught it at the 1, yeah.
And the time ran out. Okay. And it's like, I think this is a big thing for me, and this is a big thing that Mike Lombardi mentions all the time. These coaches, they don't evaluate their own team correctly. Okay? You're 2-4. Like, and I've been a big fan of Doug Peterson. I wanted the Dolphins to hire him in the worst way. But, dude, you have the worst fourth down percentage in the NFL. You're 2-4. Like, kick the damn field. Like, I don't even understand how many ways can we say this? Like, now they're 2-5. Like, now again, as we said, their division's terrible too. So they ain't out of it. But it's just like you're just blowing games for no reason. There was no excuse for losing that game. Like, the game would have been tied. You maybe could have beat them in overtime. All you would have needed at the end was a field goal, which you were in field goal range.
Right.
Like, it's insanity. Like,
and like you said, their division. I mean, what is Tennessee in first place now?
Yeah, they're 4-2.
Speaking of a team that actually manages things correctly, like
I forgot
Mike
to
Vrabel,
mention,
I think he's a really good coach because they made the playoffs 3 years in a row, and it seems like they're always competitive. They may lose a couple games, but then they kind of figure it out. They play within themselves. It's like, we're going to run the ball with Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill's going to make a few plays here and there. He's going to throw some play-action passes. He can run a little bit, and our defense will play well, and we'll stay in the game, and we'll just try to win the game.
They're 4-2 with Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback, no receivers, Derrick Henry, and their defense is okay, and they're 4-2. Like, Tell me that's not the coach. I mean, it's insane.
And again, look, they made the playoffs, and I've said this numerous times. I just want people to understand. They made the playoffs 3 years in a row. Do you realize
the number
how
one seed last year?
Just make the playoffs year after year after year? I think people don't understand this. It's like, that's really fucking hard. Okay, and he did it 3 years in a row, and they might be on their way to winning that division again. So,
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. He's I think Doug Peterson misevaluated his team. And I think Mike McDaniel's making the same mistake in Miami. He thinks, my offense can do all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And these guys, they're so into looking at their play sheets and figure out what they're going to call that they're not managing the rest of the team. They're not managing the game that you're in. You can't, this isn't fantasy football. You can't just, I've got the play call for this and the play call for that. It's like, no, man, like, you got to see what's going on in the game, because if you're managing the game, the right decision there is to kick the field goal 100 out of 100 times. Go up 9. You've got a rookie quarterback on the other team, in his second start. Like, don't mess around. Don't, it's so hard to win. Just do what you got to do to win. So let's play a little game here. Do you believe in the New York Jets?
Do I believe in the New York Jets? I mean, no, because I think, there's that old thing that Bill Parcells said where you are what your record says you are. And that's true to an extent, but sometimes it's deceptive. Like I mentioned, the Giants, they basically have won 5 one-score games.
And they've been behind in every game.
Yeah, exactly. And what are they, 6-1 now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, they're 6-1, so that can't be ignored. They're very well positioned to make the playoffs. Okay. But that's kind of deceptive, And the Jets are 5-2?
Yep.
I mean, that's a little deceptive. I give them credit for winning the games that they've won, and it looks like they've got some talent on both sides of the ball. So, how good is Zach Wilson? I don't know. I don't think he's that great.
Zach Wilson is doing the Tua impression from last year. Like, he's doing the 2021 Tua. Like, he's throwing for about 100 yards a game. And they're like, please don't throw it. Please stop. Yeah. Don't do that, you know. And you watch him, and it's just and he's like he's all over the place. You know, he runs out of the pocket. You want to talk about, you know, quarterback decision making that's questionable? Whew. He just runs around, and then he'll throw the ball, and then he's trying to, you know, it's a freak show. So I think it's great that the Jets have won some of these games, but this is, I mean, the Cleveland game, they had no business winning that game, you know, and the Dolphins, they got to play the third string quarterback, and, you know, so I'm not buying the Jets, and it's just so much, it's going to be so much more difficult to make the playoffs in the AFC than the NFC.
Yeah. Well, okay, so did you see that now I guess this is partly because of injury, but the Colts have benched Matt Ryan. Now, he did suffer a shoulder separation, but they're starting Sam Ehlinger for the rest of the year.
Yep.
Matt Ryan in 7 games has 9 touchdowns and 9 interceptions.
Well, I was going to say, can he be worse than Matt Ryan is? I mean, you know,
I guess
again,
not. I mean,
speaking of not planning your teams very well, we're going to go get a 38-year-old quarterback and put him behind a bad offensive line, and he'll be and see what he does. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, Indianapolis. Like, honestly, like, you know, you're killing me. Like, Matt Ryan is fine, but you got to put him in the right situation for this to work. Like, you can't just stick Matt Ryan on your team and he'll be fine. Like, what is the deal, man?
Well, you know what's interesting though, and I was thinking about this. I mean, granted, the Falcons just got their asses kicked by the Bengals, but of course they did, because the Bengals are a good team and the Falcons are not going to beat a good team. But Arthur Smith, the coach of the Falcons, he was the offensive coordinator for Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee, and then he became the coach of the Falcons last year. I think he's a good coach because he got the most out of Tannehill when he was in Tennessee. Then he goes to Atlanta with Matt Ryan, and their offense was decent last year. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, they didn't win a ton of games, but I thought that they made plays. Matt Ryan still, you know, he could still make some plays here and there. But then this year they trade him, and then they get Marcus Mariota, and now they run the ball a ton. Mariota runs it too. He doesn't even throw it they don't want him throwing it that much. And they're a really good running team. So that's an example of a team where it's like, this is what we got, this is what we have to do to win, and this is what we're going to do.
The Giants are a lot like the Falcons, honestly. Yeah. They both have quarterbacks that can run. They run the ball a ton. Now, the Giants have Saquon Barkley, which gives them a leg up. Like, they have a superstar.
Right. And then plus Daniel Jones can run, but that's different than Mariota because Daniel Jones is huge. Right. So, you know, he can kind of run people over.
Yeah, which, you know, is not like, it's funny. If you believed in Daniel Jones, I don't think he'd be running the ball that much. He threw like 7 passes in the second half in the game yesterday. So, look, you know, all right.
You got to win games. Do what you got to do to win games.
Hey, I'm all about it. Like, I'm all about that. Like, honestly, like, and that's why it ticks me off so much when McDaniel and Doug Peterson and Brandon said they don't kick field goals. It's like, just win, man. Like, I don't know what you're trying to achieve here by, you know, making everything look pretty. No, just win the damn game. All right, do you believe in the Baltimore Ravens?
I mean, to do what? To win the division? Sure. You know.
I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, just winning their division, yeah, they can make the playoffs, but I'm not, you know. Do they have an extra gear that they can hit? Because if they don't have an extra gear, I don't think they can beat Buffalo or Kansas City.
I have a couple concerns. Their defense is not getting the job done. Number one, and the offense it's not spectacular. Like, you know, it's a lot of and speaking of guys who didn't throw very much, I don't think Lamar Jackson didn't throw very many passes in the second half yesterday. So they should have beaten the Browns by, you know, double digits. Like, I mean, you know, we could talk about that later, but the Browns are not good. Like, I don't know what happened. And by the way, the Browns are one of those teams that have no excuse not to be good. Like, they have a good roster. They have good players. They have good talent. Their offensive line's good. You know, now granted, Jacoby Brissett's your quarterback, so you're limited, but Baltimore, I'm worried about. That it's not the same. It's not the same defense that it was, and they don't run the ball the same way. It's not as good as it used to be. I like some of their receivers, but I have concerns. I like Cincinnati. I know they beat Cincinnati, a few weeks ago, but I think Cincinnati
should probably be 5-2, but their idiot coach, it was what was it? It was 13 to. It was the Ravens were playing the Bengals. The Bengals.
Oh right, they went for it on fourth down. Go figure. The teams that keep going it on fourth down a lot, they lose games.
And look, by the way, okay, remember this is okay. So if you're 5-2, that's only 2 losses. You're kind of in position to try to get the 2 or the 3 seed. And now you've got 3 losses, and it's like you got more division games coming up. You got more tough games coming up. So it's like. I'm not necessarily saying you gave that game away, but it's like you can't screw some of these decisions up because some of these games you can't get back, and then at the end of the season it can come down to we need 10 or 11 wins to get in, and we've got that extra loss and we can't get there. So
let's see. So we talked about the Chargers, we talked about the Giants. Do you believe in the Cowboys?
No.
That was definitive.
No,
no waffling on that one. I
believe in the Cowboys unless they are in the lead in the fourth quarter in the NFC Championship game. Okay, their defense is legitimately really good. Okay, Micah Parsons is ridiculous. Okay, he's just a game wrecker. Okay, and they are running the ball pretty well, so I'll give them credit. But Dak Prescott has not looked good in the 2 games that he's played this year. And they were just playing the Lions, whose defense is terrible. Okay,
I don't think their offense is good. I think their offense is a serious problem. I don't think it has anything to do with the quarterback. I think the offense is just not good. And that's gonna be an issue. Like you're trying to beat these teams. But look, the way the NFC is, like they could definitely make the playoffs. Like I gotta give McCarthy credit. He is playing to his strengths. He is doing what you need to do to win these games, and he's being smart about it. And, it's kind of funny. Like, I think we're going to get to the end of the season, Clark, and it's going to be like, all these old school coaches, wow, look at that. All these old school coaches who make the correct decisions and do things that people have done forever, boy, they're going to look a lot better than all these young guys who don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
So, do you believe in Seattle?
I mean, they could win that division. Why not? I mean, why the hell not? Like, the Rams are struggling. I don't know what's going on with them. The Cardinals are, are they going to fire their coach? Is Kyler Murray, like, I don't know what the hell's going on with that. And then you got the 49ers. They got a bunch of injuries. They're well coached, but they got a bunch of injuries if they don't get that stuff worked out. And then the other thing that people just don't seem to want to talk about, Jimmy Garoppolo could get hurt. He's gotten hurt a bunch in his career. I mean,
Yeah, so. No, I like Seattle. I was watching yesterday, man. They tell you what, that running back, Kenneth Walker, he's a rookie from Michigan State. That dude is a badass. Like these, of course, Rashad Penny got hurt, right? Which he gets hurt every year. So, now they're using him exclusively, and the dude is a baller. And plus, DK Metcalf got hurt yesterday, so I don't know what's up with that. Like, if he's out for a while, that could be a problem, but it didn't seem to matter in that game. He was like, all right, I'll just light it up with all these other guys. And Geno Smith's playing his ass off. I tell you what, I like Seattle. I do. Like, everybody's talking about this NFC West thing. And if San Francisco doesn't get their guys back, they're in trouble. The Rams have still got offensive line issues. They got to get, their center back and all of that stuff. And, Arizona, who the hell knows what you're getting from Arizona every week? So, I got to give, again, Pete Carroll, another old school coach. I feel like this is a theme. I hate, and listen, everybody was ripping Pete Carroll for the last couple of years, but you know what? The dude can coach. You look at that team; they play their ass off. They hit people like, they look like they know what they're doing, and the fact that Russell Wilson sucks is like, it's like that's all the redemption that you need for Pete Carroll. But anyway, yeah. But listen, man, the league is crazy. It's fun every week. I have no idea what's going on. So any other NFL stuff you want to do?
Yeah, no, I'll just keep reiterating it. There's just a bunch of teams that are in just sort of this soup or this stew, and it's just basically whoever gets hot towards the end of the year, they'll make the playoffs, and then maybe they'll.
I mean, I wrote down in my notes here. Buffalo and Kansas City have separated from everyone. It's their league.
Yep.
The rest of us are just paying rent, and that's it. That's what it
Pretty
comes
much.
down to. Like, those two teams are just, I'm sorry, man, they're head and shoulders.
But in the NFC, dude, it is wide open. Philadelphia, you could win the NFC. I would not be surprised. Some of some of the NFC West teams, one of them could get hot, they could win the NFC. I wouldn't be shocked at all. So
yeah, all it would take is, and plus, you never know. The wrong guy gets injured for one of these teams, and who the hell knows? But yeah, yeah. So that's all for the NFL. So we'll go over college football real quick. It was not as good of a college football Saturday as it was last weekend. A lot of the games kind of, I think some teams that didn't play well last week kind of rebounded. Alabama kicked ass and Ohio State kicked ass. They came out and just bludgeoned the teams they were playing to death. But my headline for me was, huge wins by LSU and Oregon. LSU, played Ole Miss, and I've been saying the whole season, LSU is loaded. If they figure any of this stuff out, they start playing more consistently, and all of a sudden the quarterback starting to throw the ball down the field. Like, I don't know where that came from. Like, I've been watching, Jaden Daniels the whole season. I'm like, what's with this guy? And all of a sudden he just starts, he was dominant. Like, when he wasn't throwing, he was running. Ole Miss had no chance. Like, they had no chance to stop him. And the funny part is Ole Miss was up 17-3 and then ended up losing 45-20.
yeah,
Like, it was nuts. So I'm really looking forward to the LSU Alabama game in 2 weeks. It's in LSU, and it's going to be, I looked at the schedule, it's going to be at night. So
it's
that
at
place
LSU. It's not in the Superdome, or it's just at LSU?
No, it's at Death Valley. So It's going to be, it's at night, so it's going to be crazy. So we'll see. And they both are off this week, so they both get a bye before the game. So
right.
I'm really interested to see, because LSU's defensive line is ridiculous. I'm really interested to see how they do against Alabama, because as with most good quarterbacks, that's how you beat them. Your defensive line has to win. The other thing, Oregon, I don't know where that performance came from, but Oregon was ridiculous. Like, Bo Nix was incredible. Like, I thought before the season that he could be pretty good if he got on the right team, and Auburn was kind of falling apart. So I think that was a really good transfer. And, listen, they lost that first game to Georgia. They got their ass kicked. But, look, they had a brand new coach, brand new quarterback, and they just ran all over UCLA. UCLA's defense got just shredded. I didn't think their defense was great before this, but my God, that was ugly. So I think, obviously, we'll see what happens with LSU, but, Oregon's got a chance to win the Pac-12 and, maybe go to the playoff. We'll see. They still have to play.
Still has to play USC.
Oregon has to play Utah. They don't play USC. Well, they would play USC if they made the Pac-12 championship game. But just by conference, Pac-12 coming up. We got USC and UCLA in a few weeks. And then we're going to have, down close to the end of the season, we're going to have Oregon against Utah. So huge games for that conference. And the fact that we're still talking about the Pac-12 with 3 teams that are pretty good is kind of impressive. Clemson had a bit of a rough game against Syracuse. People have been questioning their quarterback the whole season. I thought they were kind of past it, and then they benched him in the second half. But the whole thing was kind of weird. They benched the quarterback, but then they only threw 4 passes in the second half. So I didn't quite understand what was happening there. But it was a little weird because, Syracuse was running all over Clemson's defense in the first half, which Clemson's defense is good. So I was just surprised. But in the second half, they completely just dominated.
Yeah.
Every time the quarterback for Syracuse dropped back, there was never anybody open. So it was I think of the teams left, they have the best chance to go undefeated. But that was, you're worried. That was a little bit worrisome. They managed to win the game, And I didn't think they really got outplayed. I mean, there was a fumble return that caught for a touchdown that kind of set them back a little bit. And, but that being said, like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Clemson, I feel similar to Clemson as I do about Michigan. I'm not sure. Like, yeah, okay, they have some good things, but I don't know. And interesting enough, in the AP poll, one person gave Clemson a first place vote. So they have one first place vote. I don't know how you could watch that game and then go, all right, that's the number one team.
Yeah.
They benched their quarterback in the second half, and that's the number one team?
Right.
So that tells you how bad the polls are, but that stuff will go away, I think, in a few weeks when they start the actual college football playoff poll. But so the coach shut down the quarterback controversy. He said DJ's our quarterback, but we'll see. I'm not totally convinced. The other big story, look, this goes out to Texas. Listen, man, I was trying to believe. I wanted to believe you were for real. I really did. Like, you played like crazy against Alabama. Your quarterback got hurt. Okay. You lost to Texas Tech when your quarterback was out. Okay. That was shaky as hell. Like, you gave up 469 yards to Texas Tech. I was a little concerned, but you know what? I was willing to give you another chance. And then you absolutely shit the bed, Oklahoma State in the second half. You only scored 3 points. How do you only score 3 points? First of all, it's a Big 12 team you're playing against. Like, what's going on? So they end up losing 41-34, and so I don't want to hear it, Texas. Like, I'm done. I don't want to hear it. Like, I've given you every opportunity, and all that happens is you get lit up. Like every week you get lit up, and it's like, oh, but the quarterback, man, stop somebody. Hold people under 40. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
So the other one was Miami.
Yeah, forget that.
I'd like to take a moment of silence for the Hurricane program. They got beat by Duke, and they got their ass kicked. They had 8 turnovers. I'm going to say that again. 8 turnovers. How do you turn the ball over 8 times in a football game? Were you just throwing it directly to the other team? It's incredible.
Yeah.
They have 5 fumbles. They lose all of them. Like, who fumbles the ball 5 times and doesn't get one of them back? So, yeah, University of Miami's 3-4. Like, man, like, that's another team that I was like, at the beginning of the season, I'm like, oh, man, please let them be good, because we need that for college football. But, yeah, man, they suck.
Yeah.
It's incredible. New coach, like, all right, we'll give you a little more time, dude, but, come on, man. When you lose to Duke and Middle Tennessee State, I don't know what to say anymore. Like, at least Texas is losing to conference teams, like, are good conference teams. Miami's losing to. It's just that's pathetic. I think the Big 12 has the most exciting games, to be honest with you. Every game is a shootout.
Was down 18 points, and they still beat Kansas State, so they're still undefeated. So
that was incredible.
You got Oklahoma State's got 1 loss. Right, but they beat Oklahoma. They haven't played Oklahoma yet.
No, haven't played Oklahoma yet.
I forget who they lost to. But yeah, Kansas State's out of it now. They got like two losses. But TCU and then Oklahoma State, and I guess that's the only 2.
Those are the only 2 that really have a shot at going anywhere.
Yeah, because Oklahoma's done.
But yeah, and then I think Oklahoma State plays Kansas State next week. And the nice part of the Big 12 is they're all going to play each other. So it's like you get a really good read on what's happening. So yeah, they have probably the most exciting games. It's really nice to have good teams in every conference. Like, that's really nice that we actually have people that we can watch.
Yeah, that's why we need a 12-team playoff this year, because that would be awesome. You get somebody from every conference. You get someone from every conference in there. So.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like, when you just do the 12-team playoff and you look at the games, like, especially if we're going to have like, I wasn't a big proponent of expanding the playoff, but the fact that we could get on-campus playoff games, that's awesome. Like, that would be just amazing to have games like that in January and, on campus in team stadiums where you get home crowd and all that stuff. I just think that would be really cool. So next week I think let's see, Tennessee plays Kentucky next week, and Ohio State plays Penn State. So those are kind of the best, games. But I'm really looking forward to Tennessee and Georgia, and then Alabama plays LSU the same weekend, 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
So that's like decision time for the SEC, and we'll find out. I mean, look, Georgia and Ohio State, Michigan, they haven't really beaten anybody. So it's kind of hard to tell with them at this point. But the good thing is they're all going to play legit teams going down the stretch. I think Georgia has to play I think they play Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi State, and somebody else. I can't remember. So they play 4 major SEC opponents in a row. Alabama has to go to LSU, and they have to go to Ole Miss. So we're gonna find out a lot. But I think, honestly, at the end of the day, I mean, let's face it, we're going to have the SEC champion, the Big Ten champion, probably Clemson, and then we'll see what happens with the 4th spot, whether it's a second SEC team or TCU or Oregon or, So it'll be interesting. I don't know whether we'll get 2 SEC teams. It depends on what happens with the rest of the games. LSU is not going to be a pushover for Alabama. If LSU plays anywhere close to their talent, they will be a nightmare to try to beat. But that's all I had. Anything else? No,
I don't think so. I can't. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. No, I didn't really have anything else. I didn't have any NBA takes because it's so early in the season. I don't really know what's going on yet.
Yeah, Zion Williamson already took a fall last night. It sounds like he's going to be okay, but it's a little concerning. Like he went up for a dunk, it got blocked. I think he landed on his back. It's like, oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Can we get through a week, please? Can we just get through 1 week?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
But you got to get to that exciting Monday Night Football game tonight.
Oh, I mean, oh God, oh. Yeah, and as much as I would like the Dolphins to be good, so they'll be in more primetime games, I kind of like the game being on at 1 o'clock because I can